The unusual trajectory of this object offers the possibility that it might have been designed so as to have some goals of a reconnaissance mission.
3I Atlas isn't just another comet, it's a straight-up cosmic mystery that flips everything we thought we knew. And the wildest part? Whatever this thing is, we may never see it again. It all kicked off on July 1st when the Atlas survey system in Chile spotted something strange. A fast, silent object slicing across the night sky from the direction of Sagittarius, right near the dense, star-packed heart of our galaxy. At first, astronomers shrugged it off as just another cold comet drifting in from the outer edges of our solar system. But that theory collapsed fast once more telescopes locked in. This object wasn't crawling through space like a comet should. It was flying. Its path was hyperbolic, meaning it wasn't bound to the sun at all. It was inbound from deep space, set to swing by and vanish forever. But the jaw-dropper wasn't the speed, it was the precision. Interstellar visitors like Oumuamua or Borisov usually barge in at steep, chaotic angles, crossing through our planetary system like uninvited guests. But 3I Atlas? This thing rolled in smooth, just 5 degrees off the ecliptic, the very flat plane where all major planets orbit. And when astronomers ran the orbital models, the shock got bigger. 3I Atlas was set to pass Venus, then Mars, and then Jupiter, in perfect order. A gravity assist sequence that looks almost identical to the flight paths we designed for spacecraft. Sure, it's not impossible for nature to line things up like that, but let's be real, it's not what you expect from some random rock drifting in. Harvard astrophysicist Avi Loeb even jumped in, publicly saying the odds of this happening by pure coincidence are about 1 in 20,000. That number doesn't prove anything on its own, but it's the kind of detail that refuses to be ignored. And then came the size estimates. Based on its brightness and assuming a dark rocky surface, 3I Atlas could stretch nearly 20 kilometers across. That would make it by far the biggest interstellar object we've ever seen drifting through our system. And yet, even on its first approach, it wasn't behaving like we expected. There were no signs of a normal comet at all, no glowing jets of gas, no dusty tails, no messy outgassing, just complete silence. And sure, silence alone could still be a cosmic coincidence. The universe is big, probabilities are strange, and weird things happen. But for anyone watching closely, something about 3I Atlas just feels wrong. Unlike Oumuamua, which zipped away before we had time to blink, this time we actually have a window. A rare chance to study an interstellar visitor while it's still moving right through the heart of our solar system. And the deeper we look, the stranger it gets. From the very moment its path was reconstructed, astronomers noticed something eerie. This wasn't just a random rock wandering through. It was gliding on a path that looked clean, calculated, and almost impossible to ignore. Its retrograde orbit, moving against the usual planetary flow, was expected for something arriving from deep space. But the low inclination, skimming just above the solar system's flat plane, set it apart from every single other interstellar visitor we've seen. Normally, outsiders dive in from steep angles, either above or below the ecliptic. But 3I Atlas? It was gliding through the same cosmic highway we use to launch probes, the exact corridor designed to save energy and maximize planetary assists. That's no ordinary route. It's the kind of path we pick on purpose. And here's the kicker, the flyby sequence. Venus, then Mars, then Jupiter. The same maneuver chain we use in spacecraft mission planning. If you asked a human engineer to design the most efficient way to cruise through the inner solar system without stopping, it would look almost exactly like this. Coincidence? Maybe. But every new layer of alignment makes the just a rock theory harder and harder to swallow. That doesn't prove it's artificial, but it does force a far more uncomfortable question. Why does a so-called natural object move with the elegance of intent? Some scientists brush it off, saying these planetary encounters are just a statistical fluke, unlikely, but not impossible, a cosmic dice roll. But others aren't convinced. Avi Loeb, never shy about challenging the scientific comfort zone, has called on the community to treat 3I Atlas as a test case. Not because we've proven alien tech, but because the sheer stack of anomalies demands we dig deeper. In his words, we lose nothing by asking harder questions, but we could gain everything if this thing turns out to be something we were never meant to see. And timing makes the mystery even hotter. As 3I Atlas hurtles toward its closest approach to the Sun, it's set to slip right behind the solar disk from Earth's perspective. That means blackout, at the exact moment when cometary activity should be peaking. Ground-based telescopes, useless. Hubble, blinded. Even the James Webb Space Telescope has to step back, since pointing too close could fry its instruments. To some, that's just cosmic bad luck. But to others, it looks tactical, as if this object is programmed to disappear at the very moment we'd be watching closest. And while that may sound like science fiction, the physics doesn't lie. A nudge of just a few centimeters per second in acceleration, barely a whisper of thrust, would be enough to shift its path over time. If 3I Atlas carried any form of propulsion, even something passive or ancient, that level of control wouldn't just be possible, it would be completely believable. Of course, there's no smoking gun, no direct proof of some hidden mechanism, at least not yet. But we do know how to look, and that's exactly why Hubble and Webb have been locked in, dissecting its faint coma, capturing every flicker of its light, hunting for chemical fingerprints that might expose what this thing truly is. Because here's the deal, if 3I Atlas is natural, ancient, and nothing more than an untouched relic of the galaxy, then it could still teach us more than any comet in history. But if it isn't, if its trajectory wasn't random but chosen, then we might be staring at something far older, far more deliberate than humanity has ever come across. For weeks now, telescopes on Earth and in orbit have been obsessed with one question that's haunted humans since before science existed. What exactly are we looking at? At first, Atlas was eerily silent. No glowing jets, no sweeping tail, no hint it was shedding material. Just a cold, hulking mass sliding through space like it owned the place. But as it crept closer to the Sun, things shifted. A coma began to bloom, slowly. A faint haze of gas and dust wrapped around its body. But even here, it didn't behave like a normal comet. Normally, solar radiation blasts particles away from the Sun, stretching out tails like cosmic banners in the wind. But 3I Atlas? Part of its dust stream bent toward the Sun, as if heavier grains were refusing to obey the expected force. That weird twist alone hinted at something unusual in its makeup. Something denser, maybe metallic, or at the very least far larger than standard comet dust. Then came the spectral data, high-resolution readings from James Webb and observatories like Gemini South, and slowly, researchers began piecing together its chemical profile. What they found only made the mystery deeper, and what they found was both familiar and deeply unsettling. Water ice, carbon-rich dust, silicates, organic molecules, on paper, nothing strange. These ingredients show up in plenty of comets. But here's the twist, these weren't fresh materials. They looked ancient, possibly older than the Sun itself. Preserved in pristine condition, like they'd been locked in a galactic freezer for 7 billion years. Some compounds barely showed signs of radiation damage or thermal wear, with spectral features that screamed one thing loud and clear. This object had never come close to a star until now. Even stranger was the mismatch between brightness and size. The coma was glowing far too bright, while the nucleus seemed smaller than it should have been for that level of activity. That led some scientists to float a bold alternative. Maybe the surface isn't just reflective, maybe it's unusually efficient at scattering light. Could it be a smooth, mirror-like texture? Or even worse, could it be some kind of engineered shell? Every new data point twisted the knife deeper, Instead of solving the mystery, the evidence just piled on contradiction after contradiction. Each new signature, chemical, optical, dynamic, kept breaking the mold of what we thought a comet should be. And then came the most unsettling clue of all: its origin. Orbital reconstruction traced its path back to the thick disk of the Milky Way, a region crammed with ancient stars and primordial debris, not a lively nursery where planets are born, but a graveyard of stellar fossils. That means 3I Atlas may have been wandering billions of years before crashing into our sightline. It could be a fossil, a shard of galactic memory, unchanged since the dawn of time. Or it could be something else entirely. A fragment not of nature, but of design. But then things got even weirder. As astronomers tracked 3I Atlas more closely, they noticed subtle fluctuations in its brightness. Tiny rhythmic pulses that didn't match random cometary activity. Some said it could just be tumbling rotation, scattering light at odd intervals. But others pointed out the precision. The timing was too clean, too steady, almost like a beacon pattern. And while no one could prove it, the whispers started. What if this wasn't just a natural flicker? What if we were watching the faint remnants of a signal, encoded in the object's own spin? The idea was dismissed as speculation. But behind the scenes, scientists began quietly running models, testing whether the intervals carried information. And every time the data came back inconclusive, it only added to the unease. Meanwhile, radar imaging made the mystery worse. When powerful arrays bounced signals off the object, the echoes returned sharper than expected, as if the surface wasn't jagged like most comets, but unusually smooth, almost geometric in some regions. That smoothness, combined with the strange scattering of light, made some researchers wonder if parts of the surface had been fused or plated long ago, hardened into a shell by more than just natural forces. And here's the kicker. The radar profile hinted at angles, flat planes that comets just don't form on their own. Was it erosion, coincidence, or the weathered bones of something once engineered? Nobody wanted to say it out loud, but the thought was impossible to ignore. And yet, for all these anomalies, one truth remained. 3I Atlas wasn't slowing down. It wasn't drifting aimlessly. It was moving with the smooth, relentless precision of something on a mission. Every projection of its orbit showed the same thing. It would swing past the sun, grab a boost, and then slingshot back out into the void. No detours, no captures, no lingering close to Earth. Just a clean in and out, like a visitor checking off waypoints before disappearing forever. And that's what left so many sleepless at night. If this was just a rock, why did it behave like a probe on a perfect trajectory? And if it wasn't a rock at all, then who or what had set it on this path? A long-dead probe, or just a silent rock awakened by starlight? No one is shouting alien without proof, but 3I Atlas is forcing us to face the limits of what we know. Soon, it'll slip behind the sun, vanish in the glare, and by the time it reappears weeks later, it'll already be racing back into the void, colder, quieter, untouchable. We'll be left with charts, images, and spectra, all incredible, yet none conclusive. Maybe it's just an ancient comet on an improbable path, or maybe it's something else, something designed to pass close, but never too close, to show just enough, but not everything, a ghostly visitor that never stops, never speaks, just moves on. The most unsettling thought? That we weren't even the destination, just a waypoint in the dark. So what do you think? Comet or craft? Don't forget to subscribe, like, share, and drop your thoughts in the comments below.